you guys. So I'm here
Wait, start again, because
Okay.
I'm playing with my hair.
All right. Oh, wait.
I was like, wait, my hair is like going all different directions. Okay.
Hey, you guys. By the way, I never start anything. Hey, you guys. Hey, you guys is very much like a YouTube girl. Like, hey, guys.
Hey, guys.
All right, everyone. I'm here with Robin McBride. She is one half of the McBride Sisters of McBride Sisters Wine. Robin, thank you for joining me in my beautiful bell tower here at the Claremont Hotel and Spa, a Fairmont property. Chef Joseph taught me how to say it that
Okay, all right.
You have to say the full thing.
Noted.
Yeah, so this is, we're up here with this beautiful view. And Robin, you're based here in the Bay Area, right?
That's right.
Yeah, you're from LA, I think you told me.
I born in Los Angeles. I grew up in Monterey, in California. Agriculture community on the coast, lots of seafood and fresh produce. I've been in the Bay Area for almost 10 years now. And I love it. It's home now. I can't see myself living anywhere else.
I absolutely love it here. This is my third trip here in like the last couple of months, and every time I come here, I'm just more and more inspired. Obviously, a view like this will like have you falling in love with every inch of it. But the food and wine community out here, especially the Black food and wine community, I find is very like close, and there's always something like fun and exciting going on. So how do you sort of, we're going to a dinner tonight. There's a dinner that you're collaborating with Chef Joseph Paris, who's the executive chef here at the Limewood Restaurant at the Claremont Hotel. And so how do you approach your sort of partnerships and thing? How do you decide what you want to be a part of? Because there's so much going on.
There is. It is a very vibrant culinary scene here in the Bay Area, as you know.
Yeah.
I think San Francisco has like 7,000 culinary establishments or some wild number in like 7 square miles. And of course, every cuisine you can think of. But I think one of the things that makes it so special and why we're always so excited to partner with chefs is because of the freshness of the food, the quality of the produce that we're able to use in what we prepare here. We're in very close proximity to farms and agricultural areas, so a lot of times the food that you're dining on that night came from less than an hour away, and you really can't beat having that connection to the soil and the farmer and the place where your food was grown and came from, and of course being a winemaker. That's something that is very important to us, and how our wines are made and the quality of the wines very much depends on where the grapes come from and the area where they're grown. So we see a very close parallel and dynamic between food and wine and being in this area. As you know, also, Napa and wine country is less than an hour away from where we're sitting right now.
Up the street.
I know.
Right up the street.
With this view this way, and we have wine country just an hour away. So I think that's what makes it such a dynamic culinary scene and so vibrant, and so many different cultures and backgrounds, and people who contribute to what makes the Bay Area and the food scene here so unique.
I love it. Tell me a little bit about how you and your sister started your business. I'm fascinated. I know there's a fascinating story that I know, but please share if you could.
So we have been in the wine business for about 18 years now. I think technically we'll be going into our 19th year, which is wild and crazy.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you. A wild dream, of 2 little sisters, and you probably know our background story that my sister grew up in New Zealand. Like I said, I grew up in Monterey in California. We didn't know about each other growing up. We have 2 different moms, and we just didn't have a relationship with our dad, so we weren't aware of each other. And we learned about each other and developed our relationship. I think I was 25 years old and my sister was about 16 years old.
Wow.
But one of the things that we bonded over was the fact that we both grew up in these really similar places. So just like what we're talking about here on the coast, with agriculture and wine country nearby. And when my sister grew up in New Zealand, it was the same. And that kind of, from the moment we met, that kind of like stuck in the back of our minds, like, what are the chances that we exist? One, we don't know about each other, and then the places that we grew up independently are so similar and so tied to agriculture and specifically to wine and winemaking. And so my sister came back to the U.S. She was born in Los Angeles also. She came back to the U.S. to go to college. And while she was at university, we spent time together between the Central Coast, which is a lot of wineries and, wine country. And slowly kind of the idea started to form, mostly as I think us just being wild and not thinking that we would ever really do it. But if we had, a wine company, it would be like this. And if we had a wine tasting room, we would do this. And we would play this kind of music. And the wines would taste like these, because we're meeting each other in, the middle of wine country. And sometimes we're in tasting rooms, or sometimes we're doing vineyard visits, which are just both, which are places that are comfortable, for both of us, because we grew up in that environment. And at a certain point, it stopped being silly comments and just a wild dream. And it was kind of like, well, why don't we actually think about doing something together? And my sister was a junior in college. She had like a year and a half left to go, and she was an athlete, and she wasn't going to go forward, in sports. And so she had to really think like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm about to be out of school. I just had twin boys, and I was not excited about the idea of going back into corporate America.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how the idea was born. Now, we didn't know what we were going to do.
Right.
We just knew we wanted to be in this space together and to do something meaningful and continue to like build our relationship and our bond as sisters.
That's so beautiful. And you have many wines under the
McBride.
A lot of wines. So I first came to know you because I had Black Girl Magic Rosé.
Yes.
And I was like knocked on my butt. I was like, this is amazing. It's still one of my favorite rosés. It's like, it's such a crowd pleaser. So you have Black Girl Magic, but then you have, what would you consider?
So we have,
this?
So there's three main brands in McBride Sisters Wine Company. We have McBride Sisters Collection, which is wines from the Central Coast of California, where I grew up, from New Zealand, where Andrea grew up. And then within McBride Sisters Collection, we have Reserve Wines, which is the one that we have here today. And both from California and New Zealand also. And about half of them are from New Zealand, half from California. We have Black Girl Magic wines, which we created and launched in 2018. And then we also have She Can wines. So we have three brands, which is wine in a can, made by women. It is what it sounds like.
Listen, I have to say, I've really grown fond of the wine in the can situation, especially for an on-the-go summer, picnicky, even if you're just like taking the kids to the park maybe and just want a little sippy sip while they run around.
I think they show up at a lot of soccer games.
Listen, I feel like it's one of these sort of dirty little open secrets is that
can
we're
just
all
toss it in the
consuming
bag.
a little bit of wine at these kids events. So I appreciate
they become
wine in a can.
Very popular, and as a matter of fact, we cannot make enough to keep up with demand right now.
Really?
So good problem to have.
Yes, all of us soccer moms, thank you.
We're trying to ramp up to make sure everybody's got what they need for this summer with family and kids.
I love it.
But so those are three brands that are all underneath the umbrella of McBride Sisters Wine Company.
And so what do we have here? So Chef Joseph sent this up for us to sip on while we were chatting.
I think this is his favorite, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it is. So this is part of McBride Sisters Collection. It's a reserve Pinot Noir from New Zealand, from Central Otago, which is a smaller wine region within New Zealand. I think it's the southernmost growing region in the world, I believe. And our reserve wines, all of our reserve wines have illustrations on them. So they're meant to look kind of like a work of art. It wraps all the way around the bottle.
It's beautiful.
This particular one, we work with artists. This one is by a woman, an artist in Brazil, who created this for us. It's called Papatunuku, which is a Maori word from the native indigenous people of New Zealand, which means Mother Earth. Wow. And so Pinot Noir is very much known to be, have earthy characteristics. Obviously, we believe, wine is very closely tied to the environment and to the earth itself. So what's on here is a depiction of a landscape. It's got, vineyards, and then this beautiful woman who has the Maori indigenous tattoo.
I noticed that right away. I was like, is that meant to be a tattoo?
Yeah,
wow,
it is.
Wow, that's so cool.
So kind of representing, Mother Earth and being one with the earth.
Yeah. This is beautiful. Let me take a little. Let's take a little sip.
Okay, we'll take a sip. And the first time I gave it to Chef Joseph, he lost his mind. So
it's beautiful. It's soft. I'm really into. This must be a thing. The mouthfeel. with wine.
Yeah.
I love like a smooth, velvety, soft, like tongue coating type of feel when I have wine.
It's an important part of wine, right?
Yeah.
You know, we're seeing it with our eyes, you're feeling what it feels like in your mouth, you're smelling it through your nose, and of course tasting it. So how it feels is, in our opinion, is just as important as how it tastes or how it smells. And this is, you know, Pinot Noir is a lighter red wine. It's a lighter style of red wine. And this being a really cool climate where these vineyards are makes it sort of even lighter, but with like bright acidity. We don't make any really big red wines that are high alcohol, that have a lot of tannins. Like we don't make like, you know, like really big cabs or anything. All of our wines are lighter style with lots of fruit and good acidity.
And perhaps that's why I'm also so drawn to your brand, because I do find everything like very drinkable.
Yes.
Which, you know what I mean by that. It's just
I
like
do.
just very, because I do find that with bolder cabs, for example, I don't know, I like something like that with food, you know. By itself, I think can be a little heavy for me just to sort of sip on. I know people love to have a big thing of, you know, red wine and sip on it. But for me, I prefer this. This I can see myself sipping on very easily.
Yeah.
The other ones I need with food. So speaking of food,
yes.
what do we have to look forward to? So we have this dinner tonight. We have this collaboration between McBride Sisters Wines, Chef Joseph here at the Limewood. So what do we have to expect in terms of the pairing?
Well, we have a 5-course dinner that is hand curated by chef himself. You know, we've done a few dinners together. He knows my wines almost better than I do at this point. So I think what we can expect is that everything will be exquisitely paired.
Yeah.
We're actually, this is sort of a debut for our wines, which is called our Legacy Collection of wines. So
I have been on like the edge of my seat
okay.
to have these wines. When he told me that this dinner was coming up and he told me that I was going to be pouring that wine, I was like, oh. So I feel like this is a very like hotly anticipated moment for you guys.
It is. And you know, not that we were intentionally withholding it at all, but this line of wines is very, very special to my sister and I. And we have waited to release this collection starting from 2019.
Really?
From the Central Coast, from Paso Robles, and San Luis Obispo and Etna Valley. And so we've kind of been waiting for the right time to share these wines.
What was the reasoning behind that? Was it just it didn't come together the way you wanted it just yet, or was there something about this year?
It did. Yeah, we wanted them to have a little bit of age on them. They're red wines. It's Grenache, Syrah, and a GSM, which is a Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvèdre. But we wanted the first bottles to have a little bit of age on them, and then to be able to release them with a vertical. So you could have the same wines for at least 3 years, and you could taste the vintage differences between the years. So, and the wines are very special, very unique to me and my sister. So we made these wines, even if not one other person in the world drinks them, we made these wines really for ourselves and for how we like to experience wines. So, you know, it just it needed to be the right time for us to share them. And this is our first wine dinner with these wines.
Oh, I'm so thrilled. I feel so like excited to be a part of it. So you were talking about producing it really for yourselves and what you like in a wine. How much of the consumer goes into how you figure out what you're going to release for wines? Like, how much does that play a part in it?
A lot, although I will say that we genuinely believe that we represent our own consumer very well. We feel we are our consumer. So just like when you're talking about having wines that are a little bit lighter that you can drink by themselves without having, you know, a really big heavy red that you're looking around like, where's my steak now, like to have with this wine. And that is our personal preference, and we believe and we know now that there's a large demographic of people that enjoy wines the same way that we do. So we keep that in mind, and for us it's important that we never stray away from what we like, because we know, we're confident that we're representing, you know, a lot of wine drinkers and offering something a little bit unique, a little bit different. A lot of wine companies who have multiple wines will have something really big, and you know, they'll have wines that go in a lot of different directions. Whether for our wines, whether it's a sparkling wine, a rosé, a red, an aromatic white, whatever it is, you're going to get consistency in that it's going to be very vibrant, it's going to be very aromatic, and it's not going to be heavy, it's not going to be tannic. You're never going to encounter that, which, like you said, leads to being able to sit, you know, on a rooftop, looking over the bay, or, you know, in your backyard or at the beach or where have you, and you can have a couple of glasses without a meal. Right? Although we're also very intentional about making sure that we make wines that pair well with food.
I was going to ask you that next. Is what do you think about the food pairings when you're creating? How important is that to think about?
And the style of wine that we make makes wines that are very versatile also. So all of our wines have really good acidity. Acidity is important for pairing with food. If you have a wine that is very tannic or, you know, kind of rough, has high alcohol, you start to kind of narrow the things that it can be paired well with. So all of our wines are excellent with seafood, with fresh produce, you know, things that are not super heavy foods, but they can, right? But I think we keep that style of cuisine kind of in mind and at the forefront.
But it's also, it speaks to the versatility that you were talking about, being able to have so if you could have what's the ideal meal, let's say? For this one in particular, this beautiful, beautiful Pinot Noir. It is gorgeous. I see why this is his favorite. This is amazing. So what's the ideal meal to have with this?
I think this one has most lovingly been paired with lamb dishes. Now, it sounds like a little bit of a departure from what I just said, because lamb is very flavorful.
It is,
meat, right? But, well, for one, there's more sheep in New Zealand than there are people, so...
Is that true?
Yeah, wow. I don't remember the number. My sister could quote the number, but it's like, you know, 6 million sheep and, you know, 2 million people or something. So that being said, there's a lot of lamb dishes.
Plenty of lamb to go around.
that are prepared in New Zealand. Pinot Noir is an amazing pairing for lamb. Because
I was going to say, that sounds
it's got that earthiness,
perfect.
That goes with the umami and the flavors that come in lamb. So I've had a lot of perfect pairings with this wine with lamb dishes, specifically New Zealand lamb dishes.
I feel like there's a lamb rib happening tonight, isn't there?
You know, I think there may be.
Yeah.
Again, because chef knows this wine very well.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
See, I will confess something.
Okay.
When I go to these dinners and there's multiple courses and there's multiple pairings, I really try not to drink the entire glass of every single pouring, because what's going to happen?
At the end of the,
they're going to have to be like, you know, peeling me off of my seat.
Yeah.
However, if the wines tonight continue to be in this soft, light, you know, beautiful place, I don't know. I'm forewarning you. We really just met, but I'm just letting you know that if I'm hugging you, just keep an eye on me. Just give me a little hey, get it together.
But I can promise you that the wines are amazing. I know the food is delicious. So you'll be happy either way. Even if the end of the meal is a little fuzzy, I promise that you're going to love everything.
It'll be great. Do you have a favorite in your collection, or do you have a favorite amongst each collection, I should say?
Sort of. I think that I kind of tend to favor a certain wine for, you know, my own reasons, but I feel like seasonality has a lot to do with it also.
Ooh, tell me about that.
As it gets warmer, like right now, the cans we were just talking about, she cans, I'm like outside, you know, we're hiking, we're doing things in the outdoors, and I'm constantly dropping a can or two in my bag because it's easy, right?
I want to go on a hike with you.
Well, let's do it. Let's do it. Look at these hills behind us.
Let's do it. Yes, I love it.
And sparkling wines. So also when it's warmer, and especially for like barbecues.
It is sparkling wine season, isn't it?
Yeah, and we have a New Zealand Hawke's Bay sparkling Brut Rosé that is absolutely stunning. If you haven't had it, I need to make sure you have it right now.
Please.
It is definitely one of the favorites of our wines that we make, but it's great at holidays and everything else too. But I feel like whenever it gets sunny, it starts to get a little bit warmer. I'm popping that bottle.
Absolutely. Is there anything better on a warm day than like a cold, crisp glass of wine, especially if it's got the bubbles in it.
Yeah,
Like,
and
that's
it's
just
pink.
everything.
What?
And it's pink.
Yeah.
A little like girly, sexy moment.
It's everything. Yeah.
And wine is just such a, I'm learning so much about it. I'm certainly not an expert in any way, which is why I love talking to winemakers and really learning about it. But it does feel like there truly is a wine for every occasion in your life.
There is. I promise you. I guarantee it. It's true.
What do you like to celebrate with? Wait, before you answer that, do you only drink your wine, or do you like?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I drink a lot of all wine.
Yes.
And you know, one of the things is when you are either just a wine enthusiast, or if you're, you know, in the wine business, we will never be able to try all of the wines that there are in our lifetimes. Yeah. And so I take every opportunity I can to try a new wine. I drink more of our own wines. Yes, it's true.
Yeah. Okay.
However,
that's great though.
However, I'm always constantly like wanting to try wines that I haven't tried before, and either by, you know, a certain maker, or wines that come from a certain country or region that I'm not super familiar with. So no, definitely not. As much as I love my own wines, I think it would not make me happy to only drink our wines, and we want to keep learning and exploring. Yeah,
and it's a part of research as well, I would imagine.
It is, for sure.
To sort of figure out what else is out there, what are you responding to, what are people responding to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's very, very exciting. I wanted to ask you, so you and your sister, when you met each other and you started talking and, you know, common interest, you decided that you would love to be in the wine business together. Was there sort of a shared experience with wine that you had that was like, oh, I had a great glass of wine. Oh, I had a great glass of wine. Would you ever want to do that? Like, how does that even come up?
A little bit. So my sister, when she was in New Zealand, from the time she was like 6 years old. And her uncle, her mother's brother, was a wine grape grower. And so if you've ever been around a family in agriculture, you know, everybody has to work. And so she went from LA to being put to work in the vineyards in New Zealand. Hated every second of it.
Wow.
She was like, I'm never doing this again. I don't want anything to do with wine, grapes, none of it. Hate it. The worst.
Wow.
Yeah. So just prefacing kind of where we're going to end up here. So, and then me in Monterey, growing up, you know, around agriculture and vineyards and winemaking families. And as a little kid, I always kind of fancied myself a little bit of a scientist. So I understood the concept of how wine was made, fermented from grapes. And so I was trying to make it at home as a kid with Welch's grape juice.
What?
Like under my bed, I would put bottles.
Not you making the hooch.
Yeah, the hooch. For real.
As
no,
a child.
I really thought, I was like, I see how they're doing that. I think I can do this.
How old are you?
Probably like 8.
Oh my gosh.
I know. It's terrible. It didn't work. Either, by the way. Welch's grape juice does not make great at-home wine, by the way. No shade to Welch's.
Right, but please, if you're thinking about making wine at home, don't go that route. Don't go that route.
No. So we both, you know, as little girls, as children, both had, you know, these experiences around the cultivation of wine, grapes, and the idea of winemaking. And then as I got older, I'm 9 years older than my sister, right? So as I got older, and I became of age, and an age where I could start to learn about wine as a beverage, right? And start to taste different wines and wines that were made by the families that, you know, were down the street when I was growing up. And now as an adult, it's like, oh, I can appreciate it. And now I'm starting to understand the differences between wines and why those vineyards are, you know, over there doing that, and these ones are over here doing this, and it makes a completely different style of wine, you know? So I was just personally kind of fascinated by it. And then when we met, you know, and like I said, we had this sort of uncanny, similar background growing up in wine regions that ultimately planted the seed. But it was, in fact, when we were together, when she was back in California, and tasting wines randomly, right, at restaurants, or like I said, we were in wine country, that we were learning together at that point, right? Because she's a young woman, you know, she's 20 or she's 21. She was legal drinking age for sure, I promise.
Yep, absolutely. Won't be fact checking that. Yep.
And now we're doing it together. And so even though we both came together with our own unique background in wine, now we were creating a current moment together in wine, which is where we started to think differently about it other than,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I grew up in wine country. Oh yeah, I know a little bit about wine. And my sister like, oh yeah, I had to, work the vineyards. It was terrible. I hated it. Now it looked like something that was personal to us, and we were forward looking at it as what can we do together, and how do we learn together, and how do we grow together around this experience of wine and wine tasting and wine drinking.
And sidebar, how amazing are genetics that
Wild.
is like a curiosity
Wild.
in you,
Yeah.
and what she had sort of grown, but it like literally embedded in both of you.
Isn't that crazy?
While growing up, it's very like, also it's very Parent Trap. I'm sure you've heard this
People
before.
say that all the time.
Yeah, it's very like Parent
People
Trap
say that all the
like,
time.
but you have this commonality, this shared part of your, blood.
Yeah.
That has an interest in this, and here we are. There's
here
something
we are.
like very beautiful and like
It's
kind of
very
emotional a little bit.
It is, and that's why we say like there's no such thing as coincidence. Like you can't convince us at this point. Call it serendipity, call it destiny, what have you. And also, as we started to get into this business, we also started to learn about our family's history in it as well. Our dad, his family's from Alabama. You said hooch. They have
that's where your instinct to create.
For generations, they've been making corn liquor, at
wow.
home. Fruit wine. Grandparents, great grandparents, who knows? It's just a normal family thing. And then on my mom's side, my mom's from Indiana originally, and the women in her family were bootleggers making White Lightning.
I mean,
so we weren't going to get away from it. Eventually,
never. It was going to happen one way or the other.
We were going to align to our destiny, and we are exactly where we need to be. And all of the, the signs along the way throughout our life have led us to where we are now.
Is your family just sort of like mind blown at the fact that you guys have come together in this way?
Yeah, I think that, they definitely are. I don't think anyone expected us to build a wine company together.
Find each other, number one, because them family secrets be running deep.
They're quite deep. There's new ones every day.
Yeah.
So I think they were just excited that, we found each other. We have a relationship with everyone in the family. I don't think they ever anticipated us having a wine company, but I will say that there's definitely a lot of pride around seeing the family name McBride, on bottles, and very proud that we're doing what we're doing, and we were inspired by them and by the things we learned about our family, and our grandfather was a sharecropper and making corn liquor, and all of that definitely fed our inspiration for us to do what we're doing now.
I think that's such a beautiful thing, and I feel like, there's just certain things that you just can't get away from. It's like it's destiny, and I find that also inspiring. Despite the fact that yes, you have all this in your history, in your DNA, to pursue it is a whole other thing. Because the thing is, you and your sister could have just bonded over wine. You could just we love to drink wine together and go to tastings and stuff, but to really build a business out of that is quite remarkable. Yeah. So where you guys are now, presently, it feels like you're in a great place. But are you thinking about the future? Are you thinking about pushing forward, in terms of your own business, wine culture in general? Yeah. How do you do that? Because wines are very classic. We've all had Pinots, we've all had Cabernet. But so how do you keep pushing things forward? How do you go creatively?
I think that, that is what inspired us to be in the wine industry in the first place, is because wine culture is shifting, is changing. And when we first started 18 years ago, we knew that it needed to shift and it needed to change in order to evolve with what's going on in the rest of the world, with culture and with community. And that's the reason that we started it the way that we did. We didn't necessarily want to come in and uphold this very, historic sort of ideology that has been, wineries and wine culture for 1,000 years, right? Yeah. We came in because we saw and believed that there needed to be a change, and we wanted to be a part of it. We wanted to help be a part of it. And that continues today. And what we predicted and what we saw and believed came to fruition, right? And I think that the industry has been forced to look very much at the change in demographics, which goes even from women, which is wild, 50% of the population, recognizing women as wine enthusiasts and wine drinkers, to younger generations, to different cultures and nationalities who are wine enthusiasts, as well as things like we're just talking about, pairing with different cuisines. You know, for so long it was like you're supposed to have your wine with foie gras or
French cuisine.
French cuisine, very Eurocentric viewpoints on how and where to enjoy wine. And so, you know, that's been a staple of, you know, our business its inception, and I think now even more so, we have the ability to be even more creative about how we talk about wine, where wine is served, in what containers it's served in, and pairings beyond the food, beyond the table, right? Thinking about what wine are you going to drink when you're listening to this music, or when you're with your best friends, or when you're at a concert, or you know, at the beach. You know, pairing isn't just about the food that you're eating, it's about your whole experience.
Literally, you just gave me a jolt. I don't know if you saw when I went.
You did.
Because you speaking about enjoying wine in these different aspects of your life with the music and like that really speaks to me, because I do think, again, as I'm learning, I'm thinking about wine as a pairing with food or being able to sip on its own. But like, to be able to vibe out to music with a glass of wine, to be able to go to the beach.
Yeah.
And what's that like if I want to bring wine with? What are these other aspects of life that you can really enjoy wine with? That is because it's, you know, I'm sure you can agree, it's about all of it. It's about every single sensation. It's about every emotion. It's about every feeling, and literally pairing, but like pairing to your life. It's like a wine life pairing, right?
It really is. Well, I like that. You might see that.
Yeah.
But it is, and it's about your mood. It's about the vibe. It's about experience that you're creating, which may or may not have food involved, right? Like if you think about, you know, I don't know, it's a Sunday afternoon, you're like, I feel like just vibing out like in my home, right?
Yeah.
You're picking the music you're gonna play. You're, you know, setting the lights, opening the windows, whatever it may, lighting a candle, like whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But you're thinking about the whole experience, and we are working to make sure that when you think about wine, you think about it in that way. It's not just on a tabletop experience. It's not a white tabletop experience. It is also, but not just that. And how do you think about, and the people that you're with, right? What are you listening to? Who are you talking to? What are you talking about? What are the smells that you're smelling? What is the temperature? You know, all of those things. It's about creating memories, right? That's how we have these moments that we experience, and we hope that they're good, and we create memories from them.
Yeah. So, okay, so speaking of that, let me throw a little scenario at you. And we're going to play What Would You Drink If You Were?
Okay.
Okay, so if you were at home and you're just, again, vibing by yourself, maybe you've got a record player and you're putting on like a Sade record. And it's just, why are you looking over there like that? Is that your thing?
I looked at my daughter because I have a record player with a Sade record on it right now at home.
See? I knew I liked you. So you're at home vibing the Sade by yourself.
Yeah.
What are we drinking?
Very likely we're drinking a Pinot Noir.
Yeah, that's what I was feeling
Very
too.
likely we're drinking a Pinot Noir, and it is because of that smooth texture of the wine. It's bright, it's light. You can drink a lot of it.
Yeah.
I feel like Sade is like Pinot Noir. So.
Okay. And if we were on the beach with girlfriends, having like a cute little beach day?
Definitely she can. Definitely the cans. And if I was going to pick one, there's four different flavors in the can. We have 2 spritzers and then 2 wines. Probably my favorite is crisp white, which is a white blend of aromatic whites. It's refreshing and it's beautiful and aromatic, and it's my fave. And you can throw several in your bag. Okay,
yes, which is very key. You're trying to impress, perhaps seduce?
Oh, seduction.
A seduction wine? What do we think about that?
I think if we are looking to seduce, it would definitely be the wines we're about to have tonight.
Oh.
And nobody else has ever had. So,
Oh, this is exciting.
The legacy wines.
Also, can I just say, I'm so happy that you were excited by that question. I was like, I'm just going to sit and see how she feels about it.
I do. Because these wines are they're much bolder in a sense, right? Not super big, but very complex, very layered. A lot of layers of dark fruit, kind of warm spice notes.
Yeah.
So very seductive in nature. The bottles are dark and sexy. The wine is dark. It says seduce me.
It says seduce me. Whew. Wow. I'm really getting excited for tonight.
We're going to try to keep it together over dinner.
I know, right? Let me get back to myself real quick. So I talk to a lot of people who don't necessarily love wine, or maybe they haven't had the greatest experience with wines, or they think, especially with reds, oh, they all taste the same. They all taste like, battery acid or whatever, or something very metallic-y.
I haven't heard that one yet. Okay, yeah.
Something very like metallic-y and, maybe acidic or something. But I try to tell everyone there's so many layers to enjoying wine, right? So it's not just, what the wine is, but it's the bottle, it's the vessel, it's all the things. So for someone who's like, all right, let me try to like open my mind up, do you have any pointers for sort of inching into learning about wine when you feel like you've had it all and it's just nothing, it's not really doing it for you?
Well, if for newer wine drinkers, and this is something that I think has been stereotyped over the years, and by our industry specifically. A lot of people's entry into wines, where they find a wine that they like, is a sweeter wine. So a lot of folks start, with a Moscato or,
the dreaded Moscato.
But it's how a lot of people got here, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't think that should be diminished at all. And I think because of people, and some people stay there forever, which is fine, right? If they feel like they like,
I know it is. I just
absolutely
can't. I don't get it. Moscato. It's so sweet to me.
It is so sweet.
But I know people love it, so I want to respect what people like.
Yeah.
But
well, culturally, a lot of people, we grow up drinking sweet drinks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We have sodas, we have juice, we have whatever that are sweetened most of the time. And so a lot of times, it takes people a little while to kind of transition from associating that a drink needs to be sweet to enjoy it, and then start to pick up on the other characteristics, of a wine. So I don't like, I feel like our industry at times kind of, looks down their nose at like, oh, they only like sweet wine, like they're never going to advance. But I think most people start there. And if it's not wine, it's cocktails, right? Like you're having juice and,
absolutely. I was just thinking that because to be fair, alcohol itself straight can be like,
it's a lot for anybody, right?
A lot. It can be very intense.
Yeah.
You pair it with an orange juice or a cranberry or something. Like there's cocktail menus literally about like, not having it taste like straight alcohol.
Right.
So you're right. I mean, I'm saying this really more to myself.
I
should stop being judgmental. I know I'm literally going through this on my own here.
A lot of people who start out drinking, pina coladas or whatever, sweet drinks, but a lot of times it's an evolution, and for those who want to go on that journey, will end up being, tasting bourbon neat and appreciating the nuances that come in wine or different kinds of alcohol, wines or spirits. So I think it just depends on the person, and a lot of times there are folks who at the end of the day still have a preference for red or have a preference for white. I just always encourage people to try different varieties and different wines from different places also. There's New World wines, meaning the Americas, Australia, New Zealand, Old World wines being, older European countries. It can be a Pinot Noir from different places can be completely different, right? So I hate to hear people be like, oh, I don't like, red wine, or I don't like a Pinot Noir, or call one out. It's like, well, you haven't had every one that's on this planet, so don't count it out yet. You just maybe haven't found one that you like.
That's true. That's very true. Okay, and then finally, if you were to describe yourself as a wine, or if you were to assign one of your wines as like most reflecting your personality, what would it be?
That's tough.
You have a lot of wines.
We do have a lot of wines. We do have a lot of wines.
To be clear, you have to go through like a whole, Rolodex in your mind of many wines.
I know.
But is she like a crisp, effervescent rosé?
See, well, the reason it's tough is because, you know, it changes.
Yes, yes, yes.
What I'm exuding changes, you know, on the day.
I feel that. I feel that as a Gemini, I feel that very heavy.
Yeah,
yes.
well, I'm a Virgo, so, you know, kind of Earth Mother-ish. So I actually kind of feel like it would be probably easy for me to go for one of our reserve wines, but I actually think in McBride Sisters collection, we have a Pinot Noir that we just launched in fall of last year. That's from Monterey in the Central Coast, and it's certified from sustainable vineyards, and it feels like me to me.
Why?
Know, it's very one. It's from Monterey, which is home for me, right? And it's very light, but it has a lot of what I consider to be very beautiful, kind of earthy components to it. So it's got, you know, some fruit characteristics for sure, kind of cranberry and like red fruit and darker fruit, but it's got this underlying sort of kind of herby and earthy component that makes me think of Monterey. It makes me think of the land and the foods and all the things, which is very much a part of who I am. So, you know, again, it's light, but it's complex. It comes from my hometown, so I probably identify most with that one.
I love it. I'm here for the light but complex notes.
Yeah.
In a wine and in a personality.
Exactly right.
I enjoy all of that.
We need to have layers. We need to be complex.
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait for dinner tonight. Thank you again for chatting with me.
Cheers.
Cheers. I'll see you at dinner.
We'll see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.